Lou here. It's time to review the grand finale to one of my favorite shows on Netflix, Castlevania. Just a warning here that I will be spoiling how the show ends in this video and going over details on my thoughts on this. So this is sort of a discussion and review at the same time to discuss how I feel about the finale. Alright, roll the intro and let's get started. Although this is the grand finale to the Castlevania series, writers and Netflix themselves have said this is not the end of Castlevania for good, as we're apparently going to get spin-offs in the future. Now, this season had a surprisingly smooth production, all things considered. According to some articles, though that's not a surprise, apparently American animation didn't really deal with too many setbacks compared to live-action shows during the pandemic, due to how everyone being able to work and record from home was pretty easy. Though it may help that production on Season 4 was actually all the way back in 2019, judging by the dates of the character model sheets. It makes sense, the animators for this series take a long fucking time for obvious reasons, so of course it would take years. With the production out of the way, let's start. Where we last left off, everyone but Isaac was in a pretty shitty place. Except it turns out that Hector wasn't in a shitty place. He seems weirdly calm around Lenore and seems to even kinda be friends with her. I know a lot of people hate Lenore because she manipulated Hector, but honestly I really like her character. We even find out a bit about her personal life prior to being a vampire, as she was apparently the daughter of a king and queen that were murdered for possible political reasons, which led to Lenore hating war, dictators, and overthrowing for a reason. She's also really funny to me. I adore her sass. Though maybe it doesn't help that her voice actress also played my favorite character in Downton Abbey. Maybe. Next, we see Trevor and Sypha. The two of them are just tired of adventuring and having to track down every little fucking person who tries to resurrect Dracula. Trevor's showing Sypha about the being known as Death. He's not actually Death, just a being who calls himself Death, because humans don't really know what else to call him. But it seems like the two new vampires were worshipping him. We're introduced to a British vampire and a Russian vampire who have plans of resurrecting Dracula. How, you ask? Back to Saint Germain. We're shown that he's basically tired of being a scholar and noble until he met a young woman who cracked a guy's face in. Like most people with good taste, he fell in love with her and she revitalized his love of alchemy and knowledge. They even researched the Infinite Corridor together, where they were separated from what we know of from Season 3. What we see now is that she was reluctant to follow him out, apparently throwing him a detector for a portal instead. And now we do get a small recap of him with Trevor and Sypha from the last season, where we've shown what happened and where he went and what he went through. We meet an alchemy researcher in this twisted library who tells him that his lost love isn't here. Apparently she managed to leave this library and would go to another dimension, which leaves Saint Germain confused on why she would leave when he would come back for her. Personally, I think it'd be kind of funny if he was super into her and she wasn't, and like used the corridor as a way to get away from him. Just me though, I don't think we need an answer on who she is and where she is right now. Who knows, we might get an answer in the future. This alchemy researcher basically tells Saint Germain that a single human can't activate the Infinite Corridor, otherwise they're thrown from place to place. Basically, it has to be some kind of inhuman thing. The idea is basically reviving Dracula, fusing him with his wife, and using that amalgamation to navigate the corridor. Saint Germain agrees to work with the British and Russian vampires to get this done, working alongside as Hector as well. The British vampire tries to contact Isaac as well, but he basically says, "Fuck you, you're blocked," which is hilarious to me. Speaking of Isaac, he immediately rose to one of my favorite characters. He has come a long way, and to sum it up, he basically wants to slowly help humanity rebuild now instead of killing everyone and everything he sees. After letting out all his rage and anger on the necromancer guy in the last season, he feels a lot more calm and mellow now. He still plans to find Hector though, marching in on Carmilla's castle. The good thing is that Striga and Morana were away from the castle, which is good because I like their characters and they do realize something about Carmilla's plan. It's basically this. Yes, they can make a large stretch of land with no problem, but the issue will be maintaining a huge amount of land. I mean, that's a lot of land to manage and keep control of. Even other vampires will want that land for themselves, so it'll be a never-ending cycle of vampires fighting for control over that land, while the humans will inevitably rise up and form an uprising while the vampires are distracted. Which is something I actually didn't think about when Carmilla was explaining her idea in the last season. Striga even notes that humans don't give up, even if they're simple farmers, so that means they'll be fighting for the rest of eternity. Back to Isaac. He storms Carmilla's castle, where it turns out that Hector was not the clown we thought he was. His whole breakdown over being Lenore's slave is implied to be a ruse, because he was planning to escape one way or another all along. And apparently the rings come off if you cut off the finger, so that's a thing. Hector basically flips the power dynamic, where he is the one holding Lenore hostage. Why? I guess he still likes her, despite the whole slave thing. Some have said this final season did not do a good job of showing the trauma of sexual assault, and I can definitely agree with that for Alucard, but I can't say the same for Hector. His relationship with Lenore is a lot more complicated, so whether or not Lenore slipping the slave ring on him during the horizontal tango is traumatizing or not is a lot more difficult to say. Isaac approaches Hector at last, and in a flip of events from Curse of Darkness, it's Hector who's trying to bring back Dracula instead of Isaac. To me, the role reversal here is actually pretty cool. It definitely feels a lot more fleshed out than the games, where Isaac is just a BDSM enthusiast and Hector is just hero boy with dead wife. Although his original plan was to kill Hector, he realizes that he's just kinda tired and doesn't have it in him anymore. He realizes that killing Hector won't feel very fulfilling. Instead, it'd just be a cycle that he's tired of, and instead wants the both of them to live out their lives and let Dracula rest. Unsure but willing to help Isaac so long as he doesn't die, he helps Isaac to warp into Carmilla's chamber with her night creatures. Isaac goes to fight Carmilla in a super fucking badass scene. Seriously, this scene is amazing, and I was on the edge of my seat for every frame. Enough about it though, I'll go more into detail about it during the animation portion. Anyway, Carmilla is eventually tired out, and before Isaac can kill her, she kills herself instead. Basically, she pulled a "I'm not letting you get the satisfaction of killing me" sort of thing. When she dies, her sisters all feel it, so Striga and Morana yeet off into the sunset to live out the rest of their lives together, which is really sweet. I like these two. They were cool. Isaac and Hector speak again. Isaac said he's just gonna travel around for funsies and see the world. He's gonna live his life vibing all day. I thought it was really cute, actually, how he even smiles about it. Isaac's ending here just feels really satisfying. Like, you go, dude. You rebuild cities and vibe all day. Now back to Alucard. He's been with Greta for about 2 weeks, and he's already opening up to her about Sumi and Taka off screen. She's sympathetic because she had something similar happen with her boyfriend and a girlfriend she had in the past. So hey, they're bonding! I know their relationship is a little rushed, but like I said, I do feel like Alucard's trauma was not properly explored the way it probably should have been, because it's a lot more black and white compared to Hector's gray situation, but I do really like Greta and Alucard's relationship. Greta and Alucard really feel like a good parallel to Lisa and Dracula, actually. Like father, like son, I guess. We're told off-screen that he plays with the orphan children too, which I wish we got a scene of that, because that would have been so sweet that I would have gotten cavities from the sweetness. Anyway, vampires and night creatures storm the castle and outnumber them. Alucard and the other villagers are trying their best to hold them off, but it's not really working, and the people in this village aren't well equipped for this kind of thing, and a large majority of them are dropping like flies. While this is happening, Saint Germain is harvesting their souls and using it to perform the same situation that happened during Season 3, to use the Infinite Corridor to open a portal to hell to pull out Dracula and Lisa's souls to fuse them into a homunculus body. Alucard discovers this and is enraged with Saint Germain, but he can't break through the barrier to kill him, so he and Greta will have to take care of him later as they get back to fighting. While he's almost ready, it turns out that the British vampire and alchemist were the same person. What person was that? Death. It turns out Death is basically kind of the world's first vampire who feeds off the souls of the dead. His idea is to fuse Dracula and Lisa's souls, which will put them in so much agony that Dracula will go on a murderous rampage and kill everything so Death has something to feed off of. Earlier, Trevor and Sypha were pursuing Death, who was disguised as the British vampire dude from earlier, and they followed him through the teleportation mirror where they finally reunite with Alucard. The three bad bitches work together to fight off everything with ease as they approach Saint Germain to stop this. Trevor uses the Morningstar Whip to break the barrier until it breaks, then suddenly Death's plan is working. Lisa and Dracula are screaming in agony with Alucard watching in complete horror. Let me just say this scene is fucking terrifying. I can't imagine how it must feel to be forced into this dead amalgamated body fused with another person. That sounds horrifying to me. No wonder both of them were screaming in pain. Yet just before Dracula is ready to snap from the agony, Trevor bursts through with the barrier and kills the amalgamated corpse, which sets Lisa and Dracula's souls free. Death is pissed, and the whole bedroom kinda explodes to have Death looming over everyone in what definitely mimics the final boss fight from a video game. During the explosion, Saint Germain was impaled and he's dying. We get a view of the infinite corridor again where his love found him, but she mysteriously turned away. With Alucard probably too terrified to fight and Sypha injured, Trevor steps in to fight Death, saying goodbye to Sypha, telling her that he loves her, which is really sweet. Trevor fights against Death itself using a very dangerously powerful dagger he found in some catacomb from a crazy royal servant of the royal family. He fights off against Death and kills him, though this would mean Trevor would die from the explosive impact of killing something that old. But Saint Germain used the last of his strength to teleport Trevor away, which saved his life. 2 weeks after the final battle, Alucard and Greta clearly have a thing going on for each other now, and they decide to turn the Belmont Hold and castle into a huge village. Alucard is nervous about the idea because he's not very sociable, but Greta knows he'll warm up to people, where she says that Alucard gets along really well with children, and apparently the orphans in this new village call him father, which is legit the cutest thing in the world to me, and I desperately wish we could have seen the kids doing that because that would have been too cute for this world. Sypha comes out of the castle after resting and secluding herself for 2 weeks in grief over Trevor's death. She announces that she's pregnant and she's planning to reunite with her caravan of speakers in order to get some help caring for the baby. Yet Alucard learns from his own trauma and convinces Sypha to stay in this new village with him and Greta. He pretty much vows to help take care of the baby in whatever way she needs, and just as she's ready to get things started, Trevor arrives pretty badly injured. He explains how he survived and also that he and Sypha should stay together and help build this new village together. It ends with all of them happy, healthy, and ready to face a brighter future. Yet what's this? A couple shows up in the pouring rain. That's right, it turns out Dracula and Lisa were resurrected all along. Now I have no idea how the hell this happened, but I have a theory. When Saint Germain teleported Trevor to safety, the corridor was unstable as fuck and yeeted out Dracula and Lisa. Either that, or when Trevor released Lisa and Dracula from the homunculus body, their souls never went back to hell or purgatory or wherever there was, because I'm pretty sure that wasn't hell. Dracula and Lisa are both really confused on how the hell they're alive, but they're really happy. Dracula kinda suggests seeing Alucard, but Lisa tells him that it's best they wait because she knows how much shit her son has been through, and, it'd fuck up his grieving process, so... Lisa and Dracula cuddle up and plan to take a vacation to England as they're excited to have a retry at a life and a better future. Yet what about Lenore? Basically, she doesn't want to be Hector's prisoner and feels like she doesn't belong in the world anymore, where she spells out the real reason why humans always win over vampires despite the odds. Humans learn to improve, adapt, and overcome, while vampires are forever stuck in their ways. Just like real old people, vampires don't change, despite how powerful they are. Their refusal to adapt to a human's better ways of survival end up making them lose every single time. Lenore decides to kill herself by going out into the sunlight, making Hector feel probably more at ease where he lives a calm life in this new Austrian castle with Isaac. At least, I think Isaac is still chilling there. Honestly, this is a really happy ending for everyone. I mean, not for Carmilla and Lenore, but hey, we all knew their deaths were gonna come anyway. Some people complained about it being a happy ending, but honestly, fuck that. Let everyone be happy. We see time and time again how tired Alucard, Trevor, Sypha, Isaac, Hector, and everyone else is. Let everyone be happy and take a breath of fresh air for once. I do think it would have made thematic sense for Trevor to die, but it also redeems Saint Germain in the end, who basically went full-on incel mode for his mystery girlfriend. Death was also a really cool character too. He was not only hilarious, but a fantastically overpowered and looming figure this final season. I hope we get a movie or something about him and Dracula back when he was human, because I think it'd be really interesting and neat to see Death itself and how he made Dracula who he is. Overall, the story is amazing. Sure, it could have used more time in some places, but honestly, I am very satisfied with the way this story turned out, and I'm happy every character I loved lived a happy life, especially Alucard, whose smile in the finale now lives in my head rent-free. Fight scenes are the best they've ever been this season. We are talking high action and well-paced fights that amp up in intensity for every single fight. Specifically, Sypha's fight scenes are always badass, but I may be biased here as I find ice and fire magic to be super badass anyway, so maybe seeing that just automatically makes it badass, but it was so damn awesome. I think the best and well-animated fight scene though was the fight between Carmilla and Isaac. I haven't seen a fight that tense and spectacular in a long fucking time. Though I did notice the frame rate in certain scenes were kind of low actually. In particular, I noticed this with Trevor's fight scenes, probably because Trevor's whips and punches are a lot harder to animate than Sypha's ice spears or Alucard's teleportation, but it is very noticeable. I did notice the quality of animation was the highest it's ever been. The detail on upset faces is insane, and the costuming is gorgeous as always. Specifically, Lenore's outfits this season were just incredible. Then again, I really liked Lenore's character despite all the shitty stuff she did, but that's just me. What can I say? I love sassy and manipulative characters. One thing that did strike me as odd though was seeing a smidge of 3D for a close-up shot of a pissed Trevor Belmont fighting death itself. At least it looked 3D. I could be wrong, but it just seemed odd for such an iconic shot. But that's just me. Another thing was the audio quality with Saint Germain was a little strange. I don't know if it's an issue on Netflix's end, but his audio quality felt lower than the rest. Maybe he didn't have a good mic at home or something, but I just wanted to mention it because I thought that was really odd. Overall, the animation reaches its peak brilliance in action and design. I think the animation is the best it's ever been. Even if the story may not vibe with everyone, no one can deny this animation is incredible. I've been looking at animators on Twitter sharing their scenes and just, wow, incredibly talented people worked on this series. Alucard Tepesh. Hello, sexy vampire Alucard! Sorry, my thirst has not lit up since my first review of this series. If anything, this is advanced thirst now. As much as I love Alucard and every scene he's in lives in my head rent-free, I have to admit that his development was definitely a little rushed. Not as bad as some anime like The Promised Neverland with their 5-minute character turnarounds, but definitely more time was needed to show Alucard's development after the trauma he went through. Unless they wanted to, and maybe there was pacing issues? I'm honestly not sure. He's still damn perfection though. I adore this handsome man so much. Trevor Belmont. Damn, Trevor really has changed a lot since season 1. What was once a reluctant drunkard is now a quiet, serious, and reckless character worthy of the Belmont name again. Trevor's development has kind of been hard to tell, but it's definitely something I really liked. Sypha Belnades. Although Sypha hasn't really changed much, her development is more like accepting that the world isn't really filled with classic fantasy adventures and heroic deeds. As a speaker, Sypha was kinda sheltered, so she had to learn how dark the world really is. I really like it though. At the end, Sypha is a character who remained the same, but just grew to adjust herself a little to the world around her. Greta. Now here's a fun fact about her. Apparently Greta is actually a gender bent of Grant Dynasty from the original game. I'm not really sure how because I've never played Castlevania 3 and later iterations of Grant are extremely inconsistent. But that's super interesting if that's true. I'm not really mad about it because I really like Greta's character. She's really funny, strong, and her fight scenes are pretty cool. Complete opposite of how I saw Grant was portrayed actually, but I still like her. I know some people have complained they wanted Grant from the game, but I'd rather have a badass village leader than a typical gremlin pirate. That's just my opinion though, just like how some people like BDSM Isaac from Curse of Darkness. Well, I think Isaac in the Netflix series is a million times better. Hector. I know I called him a clown in my last review, but I was genuinely surprised by how smart he was. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure his shock over Lenore's pet play thing was just an act then? Since he tells Isaac he was planning to escape already, so damn, he really fooled me in thinking he was just being a damn clown. I just can't tell if he saved Lenore because he loves her, or because he feels pity for her, because Hector has a pity fetish, if you remember his backstory from Season 2. Isaac. Isaac is such an incredible character. His development from a cold and calculated servant of Dracula who went through the worst a human could go through and hated humanity as a result, to someone who learns to accept the beautiful little things about the world and living solely to enjoy life is actually really sweet. I like that it showed that oftentimes we develop and change in our own, through just having a moment to just sit and reflect. Lenore. I know everyone hates Lenore, but I really love her character. She fascinated me in Season 3 as a pacifist who isn't viewed as a gentle little flower. Sometimes you can do awful things without ever landing a punch, and she was actually pretty damn funny this season too. I will admit that I did feel sympathy for her, but I also acknowledge she's a garbage person too. Carmilla. She was a cool character, but it's a shame she was put away before she could really wreak havoc. I get it though, Trevor and Sypha fighting death and Carmilla would have been way too much and made for a really crowded finale. But it's just a shame she couldn't meet characters like Alucard because I'm super curious how she would have interacted with them. Come to think of it, Isaac and Hector never really met Sypha, Trevor, and Alucard despite how closely connected they all are. It's kind of a shame because I think Hector and Isaac would have really bonded with Alucard as people who also consider Dracula to be like a parental figure in a way. Overall, the characters changed a lot, and while some of the development is a little rushed due to Netflix's possible rushing for more episodes, I still really love all of them. Yes, that includes Death, who I thought was an epic final boss, and Saint Germain, who turned out to be a simp. While it's sad to see this show end, this is absolutely the best video game adaptation of literally any game. Yes, it does deviate from the games heavily, but I genuinely do feel that Castlevania is one of those properties that needs deviation to work best with the story. It's simple enough to expand on and add more characters, while expansive enough to leave room for more. Luckily, we will be getting more, as Netflix recently announced that they will be doing an adaptation of Rondo of Blood, which definitely surprised me. Not sure why they skipped the story of Simon, Juiced, and the other Belmonts before Richter, but I'm honestly not really mad. Simon is kind of a boring character, and I guess you can save Juice's story for another time, or maybe even a brief flashback. I'm very interested to see how the team is going to interpret Richter, who is basically the Joseph Joestar of the Belmont clan. And please, for the love of gosh, please include Maria, and please make an adaptation of Symphony of the Night so I can finally see one of my favorite ships animated. Please, Netflix! Anyway, I do hope other spin-offs will still happen, especially a possible movie with Leon Belmont, or even a unique interpretation of Soma Cruz. Even though it differed a lot and some may have hated it, I think this series was absolutely brilliant and had a really great ending. That's the end of this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Did you love the Netflix adaptation of Castlevania? Did you hate it? Are you excited for future spin-offs? Let me know down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching! If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. If any of you would like to help support my channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description, along with all of my social media. For any subscribers, new or old, who'd like to help with video ideas, or maybe just want to talk about anime or something, I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!